pursuing wellness from a place of really loving and being compassionate toward our body, that will help our body image in the same way that restrictive dieting and like, oh, I'm just going to like white knuckle it till the end, that actually harms our body image. And so, it's really flipping everything we've ever known on its head and pursuing wellness in a completely different way.
Hey there, you're listening to the Girls Talking Life podcast, and I'm your host, Johanna. If you're like me, you love time with friends. I always leave feeling encouraged, inspired to try something different, or I've learned something new. So why not continue to grow even when we can't be with our girlfriends? We're not made to do life on our own. So in each episode of this show, I'll bring you a girl and her story to give you refreshing ideas to stir your soul. Let's walk this road together. Are you ready to talk life? Hello, you are listening to episode 113 of the Girls Talking Life podcast. We are in a two-part series called Intentional Reset. In the first episode, I chatted with Arlene Pellicane about planning ahead and intentionally resetting our schedules and habits to create a fun and successful summer for our families. Today, we're talking about intentionally resetting our minds when it comes to how we feel about our bodies. Summer is about to begin, and as the weather warms, we wear less and we show more of our bodies. But for many of us, that ramps up those negative feelings that we have because we're not happy with how our bodies look or how they function. Today, I'm talking with Jennifer Taylor Wagner, author of Your Good Body, who encourages us to take small steps toward resetting how we view our bodies in order to love them as they are. She reminds us that God desires for us to be whole, spirit, soul, and body, and that pursuing wellness should encompass our entire selves because those external changes alone won't heal what's on the inside. Jennifer is a certified fitness instructor and successful blogger. She is passionate about challenging the way we think about health, wellness, and regularly writes on the topics of healthy living and body positivity. Whether it's hosting online webinars, speaking in auditoriums, or chatting at MOPS meetings, she is committed to helping others find hope in their journey. Jennifer lives in Virginia with her husband, Phil, and their 2 kids. I am going to be giving away a copy of Jennifer's book, Your Good Body, to a GTL newsletter subscriber in early June. If you're subscribed, then you're entered to win. And if you don't get the GTL newsletter yet, now is your chance to jump in. Find the link in the show notes to sign up. Everything we talk about can be found on girlstalkinglife.com. Here is my conversation with Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on Girls Talking Life.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Let's get started with you just sharing a little bit about who you are.
You already said I'm Jennifer. I'm a mommy of 2. I have a daughter who is almost 11, a son who is 7. They keep me on my toes and I love them so, so much. I am married to my very, very, very best friend in the whole entire world. His name is Phil. And we live in Virginia, and I am an author, a podcast host, and just a regular old person.
I already mentioned to you that I first heard you on a podcast and there was something very warm and inviting about you. And I was like, I really want to talk to that girl. So here we are.
I'm so glad. That makes me feel so happy. So I'm really glad to be here.
You have this incredible story about your health and wellness journey. Will you just fill us in a little bit on that?
I absolutely will. Okay. This is where I'm like, okay, how can I say this in the shortest way possible, but get all the important things in there? So I will do my best. When it comes to body image and where I am in my body journey, I like to give a little bit of backstory. So I grew up in a body that was larger than the majority of the bodies around me. And so, had kind of a hard upbringing, was bullied a lot about my weight. And, that was just really, really tough. So by the time I got through high school, I'm graduating high school, right? I was living in a body that was around 336 pounds. And the only reason I mention that is, well, for what I will say in a minute, I was 336 pounds and I was really broken on the inside from all of the just bullying and just excruciating words and experiences that I had endured just living in a larger body. And I really felt like at that time, if I could just lose weight, it would fix everything. If I could just lose this weight, like the whole world is telling me to do, I'll be happy. I'll be fine. I won't worry anymore. And that sort of led me down this trail to where eventually I did the thing. I lost the weight, right? I lost over 150 pounds, massive amount of weight. And the shocking thing about my story though, is that I actually lost all of that weight. And there I found myself half my size, but I was I was more critical of my body than I had ever been. And so I developed an even worse body image by that point than I had begun with. And so it was at that point that I realized, okay, the work that needs to be done here is really not so much just the physical. I really had to go inward and I really had to take a look at why no amount of work on my body made me feel okay and good enough or small enough or fill in the blank. And so that was a journey in and of itself, but that's really where I place a lot of my focus and really where I help people in their journey is really just being free in our bodies while we also pursue feeling our best and just developing, just healing our relationship with our body in every single aspect.
I love that you said that because you did everything the world told you you should do.
Right.
But it did not fix the brokenness inside.
Yes, that is exactly right.
So summer is right around the corner. And in the Northern Hemisphere here, we are experiencing warmer temperatures. Warmer temperatures means less clothing and showing more of our bodies, which for some of us can be a really stressful thing to think about.
Yeah.
And you give the statistic in your book that 91% of women are unhappy with something about their bodies.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the expectations that we put on ourselves and how we might begin to move toward being more comfortable in our own skin.
I love how you phrase that, how we begin to move toward, because in my journey and my experience and with the women that I help in the world, it is never just a light switch where we're like, oh, wait, I should be okay with my body. Okay, let me flip that switch and I'm okay. It's really not like that. And we can have moments that are just really eye-opening, light bulb moments where we're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know I could be free in my body right now on the way to where I'm going. But it is a process. And so if someone is asking me, how can I go into the summer season where my body image stuff is just going to rev up, but work toward it being a little bit more free, I would say to tiptoe toward it. And I would say that really being free in our body is totally doable and it's totally a place that we can be, right? We can live completely free in the body that we're in right now. But getting to that place where we truly feel free, like going to the beach or going to the pool or just wearing shorts on our little walk in the evening with our family or whatever it is for you, those things tend to come little by little. And so I think mixing in the understanding of knowing that it comes little by little with some intentionality of putting on the shorts or putting on the swimsuit or taking your kids to the pool, even though you don't want to because you don't want to be seen. Little things that are maybe just slightly outside the comfort zone, those things can really help us. Even it's like, we don't want to wait until we just feel totally free to do the thing. It's like, let's go ahead and start working toward that. Let's take those little things. Let's do those little things that are inching us toward there that are just outside our comfort zone. And once we do that, we start to feel more free. I'm going to give you an example. I remember when I saw someone, this was years ago. I think it might be in my book too. I can't remember, but I remember when I saw on Instagram someone who looked like me, cause you have to understand, even though I lost this massive amount of weight, I am still just a person in a larger body. I have a large frame. I'm just a larger person. And so I saw someone on Instagram who had a similar body frame to me, and she was just living her life out there. She would throw on the swimsuit. She'd go to the beach. She'd go to the whatever. And I lived in Florida at the time. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I am going to go and find myself a good 2-piece swimsuit, and I am going to take my kids to the beach, and we're going to just have a good time. And I am not going to worry about it. I'm just going to be free in my body. And so I did. I went and I picked out what I thought was just the cutest 2-piece swimsuit. And I was like, okay, got it home. It's beach day. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to grab the 2-piece one that I just bought, and I'm going to put it on. And, I have butterflies in my tummy, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so I do it. I put the 2-piece on. We go to the beach, and I'm walking on the beach, and I was scared. Honestly, Johanna, I was afraid. I was nervous. I was scared. But as I did it afraid and like pushed past a little bit of that little nervousness in my belly, I began to look around, and I was like, no one here cares about my cellulite. No one here knows that this is my first time wearing a 2-piece, nor do they care. And so that little step was just outside my comfort zone, but it was an intentional move of saying, I want to be more free. And when I say that, if you're listening and you're like, oh, no, I'm not doing anything close to that. That is also okay. But getting to this place where we feel more comfortable in our bodies takes time and usually comes little by little, but it starts with going inward and digging up some of the things that are causing us to think certain ways about our body.
I love that you said take small steps. That applies to so many things in our lives.
Absolutely. Tiny baby steps.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is we can be uncomfortable in our bodies for so many reasons. It could be that we feel like our body is bigger than maybe it should be. But we could also feel like it's too small.
Yeah.
Or we're getting older. So aging starts to happen.
Yeah.
Jennifer, I have this giant vein on my leg.
Yeah.
that started developing after I had my kids. And, every year it gets a little bit bigger. And exactly. Maybe shorts this summer because I'm not going to be held back by this one attribute that no one else cares about.
Exactly. And I think setting yourself up for like, why am I doing this? Like, for example, I didn't go to the 2-piece, to get someone's attention. I went with the intention of feeling more free. I wear shorts in the summer because it's hot in the summer, and so not wearing the shorts is like excruciatingly hot. I'm dripping. It gets I don't know how it is where you are, but like in Virginia, believe it or not, it gets extremely hot and humid. So I am going to wear shorts because I'm really hot, and so I don't want to be, the point behind it all is that I don't want to be held in bondage to anything. I don't want to feel like I am being held in bondage to wearing long pants because I'm afraid, out of fear, And so it's really, again, it's just really digging deep and seeing, like, pulling all that up and seeing what it is that's causing us to think those things. And you're right. There are so many other things. I have a good friend who we were talking on her podcast about, she read my entire book, and my story is very centered around weight because that was my big battle for so long. She has never had any kind of battle in her weight, but what she has battled is an autoimmune disorder that she absolutely cannot get, settled. She's always trying to figure it out. It's not, what do you call it? It's not controlled. It's always doing something different and throwing her off or whatever. And that has caused her to be almost resentful toward her own body. And so she's had to work through her relationship with her body when her body is not responding the way that she wants it to. And so there are so many reasons that we can feel resentful toward our body or uncomfortable in our body or angry that our body won't respond. And one thing I would just say about that is just really honoring your specific story. Honor what you have been through in your specific body and bring light to that, because once we bring light to those things, that is when a lot of the healing can happen.
That's so, so good. Our bodies are part of God's workmanship. So our dissatisfaction with them, it points back to Him in a negative way. So we are inadvertently rejecting His creation when we're feeling that way toward ourselves.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because there's that side and there's also the pull to bring Him in. And it's like, we want to honor what He says about us. Like, He created us. At the end of the day, we are made in His image and in His likeness. And when He created us all the way back in the beginning, we were part of all of His amazing creations, and He called us so very good. And so that is just the absolute truth of the matter. That is something that for many of us, it's hard to grapple with. Like, we're like, I know you say that, God, but like, I don't see it. And so that's where that tension kind of steps in, and really sorting through that tension, because we can be in a place where we're like, okay, but I don't see it, Lord. I don't get it. And what I say during that time is to go to God, go to Him in it. And instead of shying away from Him, like, that's what I did for a really long time. I thought, Johanna, that because the whole world had nothing but negative things to say about my body for so long, to the point where I had nothing but negative things to say about my body for so long, I felt at times that God must be just as disappointed in me as I was with myself. And the truth of the matter was, because of that, I would just shy away from God. I would be like, oh, but you don't understand, God. I would lose this weight. That's probably what you want, right? But I just can't because or whatever. And but God's ways are different than our ways. His thoughts are different. His ways are higher. His thoughts are higher than ours. And so I really had to go to Him and be like, okay, God, what are you thinking toward me? And what are you wanting me to learn? What are you wanting to change? I know you're a God of transformation. I've seen you transform my life over and over again and in different ways and other people. So like, I know you loved, he picked dirt from the ground up and blew into it, the breath of life, like, He's a God of transformation. But it takes going to Him, and not just going to Him and demanding our own way, but going to Him and saying like, okay, my hands are open. My fists are loosened. I surrender. Like, what is it that you want to do? And then being really open to what it's like, knowing that God is truly so good. His character is so good, and He is thinking higher than we are. And so it's like going to Him and saying, God, I'm bringing this to you. What do you want to teach me? Like, I had to go to God and be like, okay, God, this has been a lifetime struggle, a lifetime of a struggle for me. What's going on? Like, why am I still not at rest with my body? Why am I still anxious about my body? Why is nothing I ever do good enough for me? And so allowing Him to transform my heart and my mind, and learning what His word says about me, about my identity, even about my body, that is transformative in itself.
I am taking a quick pause in the conversation to let you know about today's sponsor. Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and uncertain about your faith, business, and relationships? Look no further than the Simply Wholehearted podcast. Join certified marriage and family Enneagram coach Amy Wicks as she shares stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you thrive in business, relationships, and personal growth. You might remember Amy from episode 82, where she and I talked about deepening our friendships with the Enneagram. With nearly 300 episodes and 6 years of experience, the Simply Wholehearted podcast is the ultimate destination for anyone looking for tools and insights to overcome anxiety, self-doubt, and overwhelm. Plus, don't miss out on our special podcast playlist for each Enneagram type. I am a type 9, and I can't wait to see which episodes are going to be most helpful for me. Learn more at simplywholehearted.com, or find the link for these customized playlists in the show notes. Find the Simply Wholehearted podcast on your favorite listening app and start living your best wholehearted life. Now, back to my conversation. Do you have an example of something that you learned?
I have so many examples. I really believe that the biggest thing that God has taught me, he's done so many things. Like we could sit here for like hours going through these things. But the biggest thing that God has taught me is to continually dare to trust him in the journey. And what I mean by that is, so I think about the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible. So she wrestled with hemorrhaging for 12 entire years. And so if you think about that, that's a long time to be wrestling with an issue.
Yes, it is.
An issue in your body, your blood pressure is low, your heart rate is probably low, you probably feel weak from time to time. Like you're wrestling with this issue. And the Bible says she went to everyone she knew to try to solve the problem. She spent all of her money on doctors and no one could help her. She did everything she could possibly do to try to figure out her issue with hemorrhaging. And so then we know she gets to this place where Jesus is walking through the town and she's like, well, maybe if I can just get to him. And so she goes to him and she touches the hem of his robe and she's instantly made whole. And so what I love about that is what we don't realize is he was like, who touched me? And the disciples are like, there's dozens of people out here. We don't know who touched you. And he's like, no, I want to know who touched me because Jesus said, I felt my power. I felt power discharging from me. And I want to know who touched me. And so he seeks this woman out. He seeks her out and he's like, I want to talk to you. I want to be with you. And as soon as she finally comes forth and blurts out her story, says what happened and all the things, he instantly gives her an identity in him and calls her daughter. And he says, daughter, you dared to trust in me. And now you can live whole. And so it's that daring to trust in God rather than constantly going back to a worried work on my body, if that makes sense. That is what has been transformative to me is like we already know in any body journey, right? We know there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be victories and defeats. It's going to be like a roller coaster ride, right? It's never just like this smooth sailing thing. There's different legs of the journey. And so learning that in all of those different legs of the journey, I can go to him and be like, okay, I trust you. And another thing that I learned was that in the Bible, God talks about, and I think it's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where it says that God desires that we are whole, right? We know that. We know that he wants us whole. But do we realize that it says in there, he wants us whole in spirit, soul, and body? That's because we live in these bodies, and all of those things are important. And so realizing that maybe what we think is important about our body might look a little different because we've got the world's way of thinking really ingrained into us. And so going to him and saying, what do you say about my body? What do you say about stewarding my body or caring for my body? It's the same way that we would go and say, okay, Lord, I've been not giving you much time. Like my spirit feels weak. I need to spend time with you or whatever it is. It's the same with spirit, soul, body. He wants us to be whole. And so I told you I could go so many, I can't even narrow it down, but just going to him and going to him with a completely open heart. Like, Lord, you show me. I'm not going to come to you with just an agenda and demand that you zap the weight off of my body or zap the weight onto my body or zap away that whatever. I'm coming to you right now. Where do you want me? What do you have for me? And what do you want to transform in my life?
Those are such amazing examples. And that second one actually leads me into my next question for you, which is you talk about loving your body right now, the way it is, without changing it. Mm-hmm. But then you also talk about pursuing better health. Mm-hmm. Those could sound like a dichotomy.
Yep.
But you just mentioned stewarding your body well. So how do we bring those together?
That is such a good question. And honestly, that is the question that people ask me the most. They're like, Jennifer, I hear what you're saying, but how do we, it's like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I want to love my body, but then we're also in the very next breath, we're like, but I also care about like being healthy. I actually care about wellness and feeling my very best. And I recently was just discussing this on a podcast episode on my podcast. And the guest, whose name is Jess Connolly, I'll give her the credit for it. She said, we don't have to pull the two apart because they're not at war with one another. So being at peace with our body is not at war with health and wellness. We often pull apart our relationship with our body and health and wellness. And we think of them as two separate things. We think if I'm going to love my body, that means abandoning wellness. And I don't want to do that. And we think if we're caring for our body and focusing on wellness, that means we're so dissatisfied with our bodies that we develop this poor relationship with our body. But wellness comes from the Lord. And so does having a right relationship with our body, because we live in these bodies. This is an embodied faith. So God cares about how we feel living in our bodies. And so it all goes back to looking inward. What is the motivation? Because if the motivation is completely aesthetic and it's only external based, that's actually not really in line with the way that God talks about us stewarding our bodies, because the Bible says that man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so when we are pursuing wellness, our motive is more in line with, instead of saying, how can I just like be my smallest self? How can I, make myself fit this expectation or whatever it is for the individual person? Instead of saying that, it's more saying, how can I support my body? How can I make decisions that support my body in feeling well, in functioning better? That is totally okay. It's when we get to this place where the decisions that we're making are coming from self-loathing. Like we look in the mirror and we're like, oh, you're having a bad body image day. And the first thing we do is we run and I don't know, drink carrot juice for the rest of the day and then plan on never eating another carbohydrate in our entire lives. It's like when we go into that type of thing, because it all started with having a hard body image moment, that is not going to allow us to live freely and be at peace with our bodies. And it's also not a sustainable way to live as far as a functioning body, right? So it's looking deeper and saying, how can I do both? It's a both and situation. How can I really prioritize the relationship that I have with my body, and also do that in a way where I am supporting my body and functioning well? That is 100% okay. I know for Jennifer, I know that I need to get outside and walk or run a little bit every morning to start my day. I know that I just feel better physically. My day goes better. I don't know why. I can't explain the scientific reasons, but I know that just makes me feel better. It makes my body function really well. That is 100% okay. And so the shorter answer is that it's not an either or, it's a both and. We can absolutely learn to be at peace with our body right now, today, like exactly as our body is today. I always say as is, while also making choices and decisions and even just learning different ways to help our bodies function better and just just feel good. We all really want to feel good, right?
Absolutely. I have 2 teenage daughters, so I am always expressing the need to fuel your body properly. And when I'm working out, I want to make sure that they know that I'm doing it so I'm strong for them.
Yeah.
So that when I am older and maybe a grandma, that I can be a good, healthy grandma to their kids. And just all those things that you said, working for the Lord. Like I want energy to be able to do what He has called me to do.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's really looking at that motive. You're exactly right. It's what is the reason behind this? And if your reason is truly just, I just want to live in a smaller body, that's where I challenge you. And I say, can you think of any other reason to help your body function better? And then, it's those things that you literally just said, being with your kids, your grandkids, and just being able to get out and do the things that you want to do, are called to do. There's so many other reasons. And just doing that, we don't just do it just because, but it actually will foster a better relationship with ourselves, pursuing wellness from a place of really loving and being compassionate toward our body, that will help our body image in the same way that restrictive dieting and like, oh, I'm just going to like white knuckle it till the end, that actually harms our body image. And so, it's really flipping everything we've ever known on its head and pursuing wellness in a completely different way.
I want to move into your favorite 5. Jennifer, what are 5 things that you are watching or wearing or eating right now that are your favorites?
Okay, so I don't think these are in order, but my first thing is my Nespresso machine. Ooh. I love my Nespresso machine. I got it, I think, for Mother's Day last year. So it's been about a year, and I have loved just taking the time to like find what I really, really like. I just have like one like little cup. My husband's like, that's your cup of coffee. It's this little tiny like cup of, it's got like espresso made from the Nespresso machine. And it's like a little latte that I love every single morning. So that's my one thing. Number 2 is my 1 mile of worship. This is something that I have just been doing where I either walk or run just 1 mile in the mornings. And it's very intentionally just to be able to move my body while spending time with the Lord. And it has been major game changer. Loving it so much.
What do you do on your walk or run?
That's such a good question. I don't set up any parameters except for that it's 1 mile, because I know that 1 mile will get me. Usually it's a run, and I know some days it's just like a zip through and I'm like, oh, 1 mile, that's done. Other days I'm like more tired or whatever. That 1 mile, I throw in some worship music in my AirPods and I just go out the door, and I just start I just do a slow jog, sometimes a walk though, but usually a slow jog around the loop in my neighborhood. And that's 1 mile. And, it's been really amazing because most of the time I walk back through the front door and my kids are at work. My kids are at school, husband's at work and stuff. And I just have these just amazing prayer times and time with the Lord after that. I don't know, something about moving your body and just being intentional with the Lord. Like I don't listen to podcasts or audiobooks or anything. It's very intentionally like I'm worshiping God while I'm moving my body. So I love that. The other thing is I am loving my kids' swing in my front yard. So I had put a swing out there a while back, and they just had a heyday on that thing. They like live out on the swing when they're not at school. And so recently I was like, you know what? I'm going to go lay on the swing because it's like a big circle swing, and I'll just go lay out there and look up at the tree and the sky. And it's just beautiful. It gives me my fresh air. It's where I take my brain breaks through the day since I work at home. The next thing is I am loving teaching group fitness classes. I don't know if anybody's heard of the class Body Pump, but that's a class that I teach now at the local gym here. And it's just like a strength-based class. And I love it so much. It's so, so, so fun. And the last thing was just my kids' age and stages that they're in right now. They're at a fun age. My daughter's going into like the tween years, as I mentioned earlier. So I need your advice, Johanna, on the teenage years. But so far it's just really amazing to watch them grow and develop just a little bit older and a little bit older. It's like, no, don't grow so fast. But it's also like, wow, you're developing into such a cool human being, both of them. So I'm loving that right now too.
Those are great. And there are so many fun things about having tweens and teens.
Okay, I'm going to be picking your brain about all of them.
Jennifer, what is your final encouragement to us for a body positive mindset as we move into the summer this year?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say no one is thinking about your body as much as you are. No one is thinking about your body as much as you are. So something that you don't like about your body may feel really big, like everyone is noticing it. But in reality, most likely they are not noticing it. And if they are, it's not taking up nearly the headspace that you think it is, or that it's taking up in you. So I would say give yourself some compassion, get curious about why that thing bothers you so much, and just allow yourself to maybe take those baby steps toward getting outside your comfort zone and doing something that makes you feel just a little more free. Because the truth of the matter is, you'll feel a little more free, and then next summer, a little more free and a little more free, and it will just be a snowball effect from there.
So good. Thank you. Jennifer, this conversation has been so wonderful. It has been just packed full of wisdom and your insights based on your story and so many good things for us to think about.
Thank you so much. I've loved chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. Friend, your body is good. I hope if you weren't believing that before you hit play, you are now. I love what Jennifer said at the beginning about how losing the weight didn't fix everything for her. She had to shift her mindset and trust the Lord with the transformation of her whole self. If you want to dig in even more to Jennifer's message, catch her podcast, Your Good Body, or grab her book by the same name. Everything we talk about and all the ways you can connect with her can be found in the show notes for today's episode. I will be back here in 2 weeks with the Summer of Friendship series. We are going to be talking about cultivating community, creating meaningful connections, and building lasting friendships. Don't let your conversation stop when the show is over. Share your story and start your own conversations with the girls in your life. Thanks for tuning in.